Doug Picatti. I'm the president of Picatti Brothers. This is our 97th year of business. It was started by my grandfather, George, and his brother, Joe, many years ago. And we've always been in the business of water. And I'm so excited to have our guest today, Moriet Miketa. I've known her for years. Moriet and I have worked on Rotary, and you did such a good job helping me with the auction. I'm still beholden to you. I'm not looking forward to when I have to pay off that debt. But I'm glad to have you here today because we're going to talk about residential water, and you have years and years of experience, and I always value your knowledge and your experience when it comes to real estate in Yakima Valley.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this because when you and I were kicking this idea around, I had two great stories about wells gone sideways, and water is so important in this valley.
Well, tell me a little bit about the buyers that you see that want country living and what they look like, they ask you the questions that they want to know, etc.
I'll tell you, I'll just kick off with a really great story. Country property, the well is 700 feet deep. Agent from the west side of the mountains. They don't know anything about wells in Yakima, Washington. Yeah. We close on the sale of this $1.6 million property, and boom, well goes out. It's so important for consumers to understand what it is with a well and what it is for a well in Yakima Valley and the process of how we maintain them, the value of a great pump, just all of those details.
Got it. And so if you look at the typical buyer that you see, what do they look like that's looking for the country life?
You know, they're so naive, and they just dream of country living as a magical place, right? Yeah. I want 2 acres in the valley with a view, and they just can't wait. Yeah. And I think sometimes that dream can fog the facts of what it is to run a country property. Yeah. And well, of course, water being the number one key thing to consider. Yeah, exactly.
I tell my wife all the time, I really want mini cows. I think I have to have a mini cow. But I found out that mini cows and cows in general require a lot of water, and we have talked to so many people that they have this idyllic idea, we're going to have this land and we're going to have this little yellow dog and we're going to have these chickens and these goats and these whatever else, and they don't even think about, wow, they need water. And how do you get that, and what does that look like? And maybe they bought a house that was just a residential house and they want to add all these components to it. So yeah, you're right. It gets very, very complicated.
One of the things that we were talking about was how important it is to, as agents and the consumer, to lean into a company like Picatti Brothers right out of the gate. Because to your point, if you're going to raise animals, because right now the land, I can think of a property off of Marble Road right now, it's 3 acres, does not have animals, but it's fully fenced, could easily have animals. Yep. And it's a private well. So is there enough water there to irrigate and provide water for these potential animals in the future? She's got chickens.
That's awesome. They don't use as much as cows, which is good.
They don't. Or goats.
And the story that you tell is similar to the person that I heard that called me from the west side who wanted to have this unattended farm that was checked on once a day, and he was going to have all these animals. And I said, well, what do you do about the freezing water? And he looked at me just with blank eyes. He didn't understand that water froze. That was something new to him. And so even to understand the buyer and their knowledge of what the ecosystem, the community, the weather, all of those things that play into it and how they would actually even physically do that.
Yeah, I think to your point, as agents, I've been in the biz 26 years now, is we've seen enough things go wrong that we know better. And I think it's so important for consumers, especially if they're considering buying a country property and have never owned it, or even there's wells in town. If they've even looking at a home with a well, that early on, they really need to contact you. Have you come out and inspect that well, check on the condition of the pump, and provide your tribal knowledge, as you and I referred to it, to find out what's it going to take, honestly, to run a home on a well.
That is a great point. I look and I talk to people all the time about that same issue. Water is not like electricity. There's principles that people use. Electricity, you can go to school, you learn about it, and you know how it works. Water doesn't work that way. Just because your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your cousin, you hear a story about there being lots of water in a particular area, it doesn't mean that that's true. However, to your point, oftentimes it's a great indicator. So when somebody gets a hold of us early, they can say, we're looking at property in this general area. What does that look like? We can pull up actual data from the Department of Ecology website, and we can look at the wells themselves. And more importantly than just looking at the depths of them, we can look at the construction of them, the water that they have, and then back to our history. We've been here for 97 years. We can actually look into our file cabinets, and we can look at different wells with different customers that we've done. And we can tell, okay, what situations are they having? And that makes it really easy for us to kind of correlate with what we're hearing from ecology, what the neighbors are saying, what we've seen. A great example of that is we've got some property where two neighbors decided to put in a pool, and both of them killed their pumps because they pumped all the water out of their wells. It killed their pumps. And so when someone came to me, it was a third neighbor in the exact same area. And we said, well, we know very well. We pointed to the neighbors that we were just at servicing. So we've got great knowledge. So it's just really nice for people to start that. And then, as you say, start early. Oftentimes we get called in as I like to say, a box that people check. Do you have a well? Check it off. I ask people this all the time. Is your $1 million house worth $1 million if you don't have water?
Right.
No.
Great question. Absolutely
it's not. You have a beautiful kitchen, but you're not going to use it because you don't have any water. So what I tell people, just as you said, call us early, even if you're asking questions. If you're curious. We talk to people all the time, and a lot of time it's interesting. People seem to look at property, and you probably have a better idea of this, on Sundays. I get a lot of calls on Sunday, internet inquiries. Hey, we're just thinking we're doing this. And I say, well, is it an emergency? And they say, no, we're just, we're looking. And so I'm happy to talk to people about that. And it's great to at least get them knowledge and information so that they can make a good decision. Because what I hate to see, and I've shared this with you before, I hate to go all the way to the end when everybody's ready to close. Right. Everything is in place. Everybody's ready to seal the deal. And then we come back maybe with information they didn't have, and they choose not to buy the property. Or maybe there's concessions.
Deal killer.
Yeah, I'm a deal killer. Yes,
deal killer.
I hate to be the deal killer, and I hate to kill the dreams too. So that's what I like to tell people. And there's so many funny, colorful stories about people going out, bringing us to a piece of property, what that looks like.
Right.
We have to have permission, so it takes a while. So if we get a call at the last minute that this box has to be checked, if I can't get a hold of the property owner, we just can't go onto somebody's property and start testing a well.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really important to get out early.
I think too, if you were coming from out of area, and honestly, even if you grew up here, it's green everywhere. It's green. And with all the orchards and the sprinklers are going, and you drive through town and there's sprinklers going all over on the street, like it's a little bit a lot of it careless with water. That I think it leads many of us to believe we have lots of water. Why would I ever have to worry about a well going dry? I know I certainly felt that way for many years, but now we're hearing over and over these stories about wells going dry and having to go deeper and the expense of that, and increasing the size of the pump because now I'm 200 feet deeper than where I was. So I think it would be interesting with your tribal knowledge, between the two of us, we know where the areas are going dry, and what would be some things to look out for? Well,
that's a great question, because I tell people this all the time when they tell me these words. It's always worked. It's always worked. We've been here for 40 years. I wish that I had trademarked that phrase, because they tell me that all the time. It's always worked. Okay. Who was your neighbor when it always worked? Nobody. There you go. Right. If they're building around you and they're going and capturing their water from a well, or if you have, not picking on agriculture or on dairies or any other use of water, but if you're having people using the water around you from the ground, it's reasonable to consider that they may be tapping into the same water supply that you have, and it may adversely affect your water. And I've had this conversation with so many people, and when I say that, they immediately, oh yeah, that's right. There wasn't 100 houses out here, and we've noticed day by day by day, as you say, the boiling frog, day by day, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And we were thinking it was some other thing, but actually it's just usage. Mm-hmm. It's just how many people are out here and how much is going on. And so even a new property, if it's a new community and they're going to be developing it further, and oftentimes they are, if it's a desirable area, then just be knowledgeable of that. And then when you go to make your well and get it drilled, then you can make sure that you get adequate supply of water to last you for many, many years.
Yeah. A wise one.
Yes.
What is one of the number one mistakes buyers make when they go to buy a home with a well?
Oh, I got this. This one's really, really easy. People call, and the well analysis is the last minute.
Right.
And we run out there and we get it done and everything checks out seemingly fine for the purchase and sale agreement. But we give them great information about the age of their well pump, the condition of their system. It no longer meets code. As I like to say, there's 6 snakes in there. There's 57 brown recluse, 6 other dangerous spiders in there, and it needs to be addressed. And I feel people so many times, they listen to it and they just ignore it. And then we get a call later, almost like I could set my watch to it, that, hey, my pump went out. And what I try to preach to people all the time is, how old is your system and what is the condition of it? Because these are mechanical things and they do have a life. We guarantee it. We don't know the time that they're going to last, but we know that they're going to fail.
Right.
And so if the answer to the question is, I don't know how old my pump is, it's old. And it's going to fail at some point. So I encourage people, why don't you proactively think about replacing it and upgrading it to modern technology for better system performance under your schedule. It's so much easier to have your well pump replaced if you're in Cabo San Lucas on the beach and it's not bothering, your family's not out of water, as opposed to waiting until July 31st when nobody can get to your house, you're out of water, your plants are dying, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But to proactively think about the replacement and maintenance of your system under your conveniences and the conveniences of someone like us. Picatti Brothers can go out there at your schedule and get it done on your time. So I always encourage people, get ahead of it if you can.
And what does it cost for somebody to come out and have you inspect their well and well pump?
Oh, great question. So the first one is, it really depends where you live. So we have many, many people in this community that live at the top of ye old mountain. And we are no different than any other service professional. We charge for them to get out there. So normally you're looking, with a piece of equipment and a person, you're looking at, let's say, $200 an hour roughly. And so it's going to take them, for every hour, $200. Then they're going to get up there, they're going to spend an hour. And so it's easy to spend $500 just for an inspection and a quick routine visit. So just think about that. If you're close into town, you're not going to have that expense. But certainly if you're further out. And then, to your point, if you're up on some mountain and we can't get a piece of equipment up there, then that's problematic as well. So in the spring, when we have the spring thaw, and in the winter, when we can't get equipment up there, it really puts people in a bad situation. So for those people, say up on Chinook Pass, call us up in the summer. Yeah. That's going to be the least expensive time, and it's easy for us to get up there. Right. And then that way you're not facing this problem in the winter.
When you look at the $500, I mean, it's really nothing. It's money well spent. I mean, if they didn't do this well inspection, we refer to it as a pressure test. Is that the right statement?
Yep. Okay. You can do a pressure test and you can check for flow.
And and the flow test. And it takes a few hours and so forth. And I think, unfortunately, in the biz, it's not always a routine. We're always testing for E. coli and bacteria tests, but that's an easy fix. Yep. But replacing a well pump or servicing it or bringing it up to code. I have one that's got horrible wiring. It's probably been there for 50 years. These are the things that the homeowner never thought of. Right. But to your point, it would cost the consumer $500 up front to find out the condition, because the cost to replace a well for an average home in the country, how much would that be?
Well, it really, it's average is really difficult because it depends on the depth, but it's very easy to spend $20,000 and $30,000 on just a new well. Yeah. It's very, very simple, plus the system, plus any of the piping, et cetera. So it can get really expensive, but I tell people you've got a large investment in your home and you obviously want to have water for your family, so it's important. And if you upgrade the system, again, when it's convenient for you, then any service individual can come in and they can very quickly solve problems for you down the road because things are brought up to code. If you have, as you say, this spaghetti of wiring everywhere, we see it all the time, then somebody has to try to diagnose this and figure out where does that wire go, what happens here, etc. And it just creates a lot of conflict and challenges for people. So yeah, definitely get out there and have us take a look at these things because it is your water. It's very, very important. And even if you just have us come out every couple, 3-4 years just to do a check, that could be money well spent because then at least you understand how things are operating and you can tell us what's going on in your world. Maybe the conditions have changed. We know to ask those questions. You might not think about, hey, we just had some kids. We just added some farm animals, to your point. Your situation is not static, even though it's always been that way. And so your needs for water might be different. So I've got a good question for you.
Ready.
So when you're working with buyers, what are the most often overlooked questions that they should be asking of their real estate professionals, such as you, that would help them uncover problems that are very common that you've seen in the past?
I think a lot of buyers today will just hit the old Google, what do I need to know at a home inspection? And they'll pay for the home inspection, which has really gotten pretty expensive, honestly. It's about $450, $500. That home inspector is there to inspect the home. So he's not looking at the well pump. He's not looking at the septic system. He's not looking at the underground sprinkler system. He's looking at the systems of the home. The only clue that an inspector, a traditional home inspector, would have is if the water pressure was low. Because he's going to open up all the valves just to kind of test that. But he's never going to go into the well house typically to say, I wonder what's going on. There's not a lot of pressure here. And that's really having the discipline then to be like, there's a water pressure thing here. When I turn on the kitchen sink and flush the toilet, everything comes down. Call Picatti and have them come out. So I think buyers assume that the home inspector is going to cover all the details, and they're not. So if you're on a country property, it is the agent's responsibility, or if an agent isn't involved, for the buyer to really do their due diligence and consider each system within a home, how's it operating. No different than having an HVAC person come out.
Right.
These are such big ticket expenses. Get the specialist out there 100%.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like with HVAC, if you have a whole bunch of people in there, the house is going to heat up, so you need to test its capacity under full load. And that's the same thing with a well. If you think of a well as basically a glass of water, when you start sucking out of it with a straw, it goes well for a while, but eventually you can suck that down. And it depends how fast the aquifer fills it up. And in most wells, the water comes from the bottom. And so if you end up pulling more water out of the top than is coming in the bottom, then you run out of water. And what we see in some occasions is, yes, it works great for a little while. In your example, when he turns on the spigot, it's going to work fine. You can fill up a jug of water. It's great. But when you run it for 2 hours, you can suck the water out of it, and then you suck the pump dry, and then you run out of water and things don't work. And then not only do you not have water, but then the homeowner has to wait for that glass of water to fill back up again before they can turn their sprinklers on. And so you're right. That's why the flow test is so helpful. It costs a little bit more because you're out there for a couple hours, but you learn an awful lot about the condition of that well. Not just does it have water, but can it give you capacity over time? As you mentioned earlier, everybody loves to get on Google now, and they think every answer that everybody needs, you can look it up yourself and do all your investigation. But obviously you've had many, many years of experience and you learn some things, and it's very valuable. And so when buyers and sellers go to transact with a house, I think it's incredibly important to work with somebody that is very knowledgeable and will be very frank with you. It's great to be excited and on these television shows, you know, the $1 Million Sellers and all that. It's fun to watch that, but the reality, it's not about the shrimp cocktail. It's about having those difficult conversations about, hey, what is it like in this property? What is it like in this area?
Right.
And then those experienced real estate professionals such as you, you have developed relationships with all sorts of professionals in the industry that you can lean on. Maybe it's an excavator, and he can talk about what does it look like when I'm blowing up the ground to get a new foundation, or a plumber or an HVAC person, or you see something that you're concerned about. Years ago, we bought a home, and I had a realtor, and she took her high heel and put it in the floor and said, "This is all rotten, Doug. This has to be replaced." And it was priceless. I didn't know any of that. So I really encourage people, definitely reach out, get a high quality real estate professional that you trust, that's going to be honest with you to make sure that this large transaction for you, which for many people is the biggest they make, is going to go smoothly. And I'd also say that with the contractors that they choose. Oftentimes we get a call and I'll ask someone, well, how did you get a hold of us? Well, I just was shotgunning Google, your name popped up, and if you can't help me, I'll just shotgun it and get the next person. And I just thought, would you do that with a doctor? I've got a pain. You're too busy because you're really, really good. So I'll just call until I find someone that's not good, that's not busy. And I've never understood that, because what people need to understand, unless you're flipping houses, is you're going to live with that water system.
Right.
So find someone that can work with you, that will take the call at 3 a.m. when it's not working after you just had it fixed. So make sure you pick your professionals, real estate contractors, very, very well, because you're going to have a long relationship with them.
Thank you for that, because so many, I think my industry has been devalued with Zillow leads and Homes.com leads and stuff. So it's anyone who really can fog a mirror can get a real estate license. And it's the single largest purchase a person is going to make. So why would you trust that with your best friend's cousin who was licensed for a month? I don't understand that. I don't really understand that. And when we talk about Yakima in particular, and the example I gave of the Seattle agent coming over into our market, it would be equally crazy for me to go over there. I don't know about mold and moss and water barrier things they have to, and drainage issue. You know, it's a whole different animal. But when it comes to Yakima, you and I know where there's issues with water and water supply, where wells are going dry, community wells are contaminated. Like we know that. That is our knowledge, and it's so critical. The expense that is tied to not only buying a home, but the cost to maintain it and the cost of water. A home without water has no value. So why would you trust that with somebody who's been licensed for 2 weeks? I don't understand.
That's true. I just was talking with somebody who had done a great amount of research. She was very well knowledgeable about the parts and pieces that she was buying. And then I started asking questions about how it all went together. She had part numbers and wanted to order it, and then she had a guy that was going to put it together. And I said, well, we do this all the time. What about this? I don't know what that means. And what about this? And what do you do when it fails? And how are you going to know if it fails? Are you going to stand out by the pump every day with a flashlight, and when it goes bad, yell at your spouse that it went bad? No, you're not going to do that. You need to understand how all the parts go together. So it's great to do research. I highly encourage people to do that. But really, there's no substitute for people who are knowledgeable that do this day in and day out and have done it for years. Not 1 year, not two, just 10, 20, 30, 40, many years. The more years you have experience is better. And as I said earlier, when it comes to water, it isn't electron flow. It's Mother Earth, and it's constantly changing, and we change with it. So make sure to reach out to us early. Because I called a lady, and she said, oh, well, I had someone else do it because you guys couldn't get out here Saturday. So here it is Monday. And I said, okay, so you did that. What did he do? Well, then he did not do that right. That was wrong. And she said, well, I should have waited. Well, I was just desperate. It was Saturday and he could do it. Well, why do you think he could do it? It's like the doctor analogy. Why do you think that guy is available and your guy isn't? Because your guy is good. You wait for that person. That lady. She's the best. You wait a month. You do whatever.
There's a few areas in town where we have community wells. And as an agent, so one of the things I understand with community wells, the well master is responsible for repetitious testing of the well water. They have to report it to the health department. So we get that sort of report. it would be extremely difficult to do a well pump test on a community well because it would require everyone to shut down for a few hours. But what is your recommendation, or what is the process for these developments that have multiple people on a well?
Oh, I love this question because we deal with so many community wells. We deal with well-run, pardon the pun, well-run and poorly run community wells. And as a buyer, it's almost like an HOA. You really need to do your due diligence and you need to ask the questions. Probably the biggest question would be, do you have an emergency fund set aside?
Excellent.
So many times we go into a community, maybe there's 20, 40, 50 homes and they have no money.
Right.
And I've been in an instance where homeowners have come to us and they said, we'll raise the money on the side because we want money. And Bill used to be in the Navy and he's our water master, but he's in the hospital right now. So when he gets out, he's going to get our water flowing, but we need water. So, we're going to go around this system. You don't want to be any part of that. And certainly as people are developing properties, they're coming up with new wells and well agreements. And you really just want to make sure that you look at the legal documentation because it's something where anything that can go wrong will. And if you have a well-described, well document, and if you look at their management plan and how they set aside funds for it, your life is going to be a lot easier. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found this conversation as exciting as I did. That was a lot of fun. And I just encourage people, if you have any questions about your water system, reach out to us. You can go to www.picatti.com, give us a call. You can reach out to us via our contact sheet, really with any questions. If you've noticed that your system performance has gone downhill, that might be a cause of concern that something else is happening and you want to get ahead of it. If you have some questions about real estate, go ahead and reach out to Moriet. I'm sure she'd be able to help you. And really any questions that you might have, please feel free to contact us before you go to the spigot and you can't get any water, because as I like to tell people, your water system doesn't go out if you're not using water.